Today we're going to talk about change in demand and how we can graph that. So let's talk about if we had numbers from 0 to 50 to 100. If you'll notice, if you go from 50 to 100, that is an increase, obviously, and that's going to be to the right if I go from 50 to 100. So that's going to be a shift to the right, which we'll talk more about in a second. Now, if I go from 50 to 0, obviously that's a decrease in numbers, which is going to be a shift to the left. So on your paper, an increase in demand will shift to the, and a decrease in demand will shift to the. Go ahead and fill that out. Hopefully you said an increase in demand will shift to the right and a decrease in demand will shift to the left. All right, so I want to look at this demand schedule that you have, and if you'll notice, this follows the law of demand. As price increases, quantity demanded decreases. All right, so on your paper, you have a second one that's labeled D2 that also follows the law of demand. As the price increases, demand decreases. So go ahead and put the dollar amounts on your demand curve. You remember you can pause this video at any time. And then you want to go ahead and put the numbers on your demand curve for the quantity. And if you go back to your first demand curve, you're going to be putting in those quantities. So I'm going to put in at $3.50, that's 0. And at $3, that's 2. At $2.50, that's 4. Remember, you can pause this. At $2, that's 6. At $1.50, that's going to be 8. And at 50 cents, that is going to be 10. Remember, we needed to add 50 cents. Then you're going to put a line through it, and you're going to label it D1. All right, so here's where the change in what we've been doing comes in. So you're going to take that second demand schedule, and you're going to label those. So, for example, at $3.50, I now have 2. At $3, I have 4. At $2.50, I have 6. At $2, I have 8. At $1.50, I have 10. And at 50 cents, I have 12. So then you put your line through it. You're going to label it D2. And if you'll notice, it shifted from the left to the right because that's an increase in demand. Because, for example, at 50 cents on D1, we had 10 demanded, but at 50 cents in D2, we had 12 demanded. So that is a shift to the right, and that is an increase in demand. So go ahead and pause the video, make sure that you have all of that correct, and then click play. All right, so let's go back to these. And if you'll notice, I have them switched this time. So at 50 cents, I have 12. That's going to be your D1 chart. And at 50 cents, I have 10. That's going to be your D2 chart. All right, so go ahead again and label your price and your quantity demanded. Pause the video if you need to. Then you are going to go ahead and label your D1, which is going to be at $3.50, you're going to have 2. At $3, you're going to have 4. At $2.50, you're going to have 6. At $2, you are going to have 8. $1.50, you are going to have 10. And at 50 cents, you're going to have 12. Now, because this is D1, you want to put a line through it and then label it D1. Then you want to go to your second demand chart, or demand schedule, excuse me, and you want to go ahead and label. So I had 0 at $3.50. At $3, I have 2. At $2.50, I have 4. At $2, I have 6. At $1.50, I have 8. And at 50 cents, I have 10. So I put my line through it. I label it D2, and that's a shift to the left because if you'll notice, for example, at 50 cents on D1, I had 12, but at 50 cents on D2, I have 10. And remember, D1 just means demand 1. D2 is demand curve 2. All right, so that's a shift to the left, which is a decrease in demand. All right, so once you have a good grasp on that, and remember, you can play this video again if you need to, please go to zzi.sh and put in your access code, which is ABR4872, and play the demand game. And then after you're done with that, we're going to play Kahoot in class today.